It started with a whisper in the storage auction community, an unusually large unit in a wealthy part of Arizona. The catch: the starting bid was $16,000. No photos, no previews, just a sealed red door and a rumor. This one belonged to someone rich and secretive. Most people walked away, but we didn't. Something about the mystery, the risk, pulled us in. And just like that, we placed the bid, $16,000. All in. The moment we unlocked the red door, the light from outside caught the dust hanging in the air. Rows of wooden crates, covered furniture, stacks of vintage-looking boxes, and right in the middle, something wrapped under a massive brown tarp. We pulled off the tarp. Beneath it, a 1989 Ducati Superbike 851, pristine, still on the original stand, covered in a custom leather bike cover with initials, RM, on it. RM? Those initials kept showing up on a collection of designer suits, on golf clubs, on a stack of unopened Rolex boxes. Who was this person? One of the crates was nailed shut. We pried it open with a crowbar. Inside, dozens of bottles of vintage wine and champagne, some dating back to 1972. We were standing inside someone's private vault. In the far corner, we found a steel case. No key, no markings, but inside, a handwritten letter. My name is Robert M. _________. If you're reading this, I didn't make it back. Chills. The letter described a private collector who traveled the world. Everything in the unit was curated over 40 years. Cars, bikes, watches, art, and this unit. Only a fraction of his estate. Under a pile of tarps, we found artwork. Real canvases. Signed. Wrapped in linen. When we Googled one of the artists, our jaws dropped. A painting last sold for $85,000. We were no longer digging through junk. We were in a museum, only hidden behind a metal storage door. The leather briefcase we found next had stacks of $100 bills. Not fake. Not collector's cash. Real. Crisp money, $27,000. No joke. Stuffed in an unlabeled bag at the bottom. That's when it hit us. This wasn't just valuable. It was dangerous. Were we supposed to find this? We called our lawyer, told him everything. He laughed nervously and said, "You just inherited someone's ghost story." Among the final boxes, 3 Swiss passports, a photo of a man standing next to a private jet, a signed baseball from the '96 World Series, and a folder titled, "Confidential, Monaco 1995. It felt like a movie. Each box opened a new storyline. Each detail pointed to a life lived in secrecy, wealth, and speed. Back home, we laid it all out. The Ducati, the watches, the letter, the paintings. We called a private estate appraiser. He took one look and said, "This is $1 million unit." Let that sink in. We spent $16,000. We uncovered over $1 million in value. And we still didn't know who Robert M. was. In the final crate, under velvet cloth, was a box with just one item, a pocket watch. Engraved, "To my son, time is yours." That's when we realized none of this was random. We checked the auction paperwork. Turns out, the rent on the unit hadn't been paid in 6 years. The man had likely passed away. No heirs, no claims, everything left behind. We're still researching, still uncovering pieces of the puzzle. But here's what we know. Sometimes the biggest risks hide the wildest stories. And this was the biggest one yet. The story didn't end with the pocket watch. Far from it, because one last box remained. It was flat, heavy, and marked only with red wax. A strange symbol was stamped into it, like a family crest or seal. We hesitated. Everything so far had been valuable or mysterious. But this felt secret. We broke the wax and slowly opened the box. Inside were 8 black and white photographs. All dated. All taken in different countries. Same man. Always dressed sharp. Always standing next to luxury items. A Rolls-Royce, a yacht, a falcon on his arm. In the last photo, he stood on a cliffside near what looked like the Amalfi Coast. In the corner of the image, written by hand, "Final deal. No going back." Below the photos was a thin black notebook. Pages filled with names, dates, currencies, large numbers. Some pages were torn out. Others were marked with red circles. It looked like a personal ledger, a ledger for something big. As we flipped through, we found something else. A series of coordinates. Latitude, longitude. We typed the first one into Google Maps. It pointed to a vineyard in France. The second, a warehouse in Berlin. This wasn't just a collector. This guy had assets all over the world. And we just stepped into one of his hidden chapters. The storage unit wasn't a fluke. It was a piece of a much bigger life. We made copies of the notebook, stored the originals in a fireproof safe. Then, out of curiosity, We dialed the only phone number found in the ledger. It rang once, twice. Then a voice answered. "Who gave you this number?" We didn't respond. The line went dead. No second call. No text. Just silence. That moment changed everything. What if this wasn't just about collectibles? What if this was tied to something darker? Something we weren't meant to dig up? We called the auction company again. Tried to learn more about who owned the unit. The woman on the line said, "We're not allowed to share prior tenant info." Then she paused. "But you're not the first to ask about him." Wait, what? She wouldn't say more. Just hinted that 2 other people had come in months earlier, asking about the red unit in Section 7. We checked our cameras at the warehouse. Sure enough, 2 weeks earlier, someone had driven by the unit in a black SUV 3 times. Never got out. Just circled slowly and left. Paranoia started creeping in. Were we being watched? Did someone know what we found? We took the ledger to a trusted contact, a former intelligence officer turned historian. He flipped through it for 2 minutes and said, "You have no idea what this is, do you?" We didn't. He explained the codes. They weren't just dollar values, they were markers, shipping codes, transaction IDs, references to international dealings. Some of the currency codes hadn't been used in decades. In short, this man had ties to rare artifact exchanges, high-end art trading, and maybe more. The unit we bought wasn't a fluke. It was a dead drop vault. Now we were caught in the middle. And if the wrong people knew what we had, we weren't safe. That night, we moved all valuable items into separate locations. The Ducati went into a private lockup. The wine and art, climate-controlled facility. The ledger and documents, off-site, scanned, encrypted, and backed up. But even then, the mystery wasn't over. Because the final few pages of the notebook, they didn't have financial data. They had names. Some were crossed out. Others had dates next to them. And 2 names. One had an American address. The other was listed as Watcher. We researched them. The first, a deceased arms dealer, confirmed in news archives. The second, nothing. Total ghost. No records. No online presence. Just the word, Watcher. That's when we made a decision. We had to go dark. At least for a while. Because if this story was real, and if this unit was just the beginning, then we were sitting on more than just treasure. We were sitting on secrets. 2 weeks passed. We said nothing. No uploads. No more digging. But the pressure was building. We had to do something with the story. So we made this video. As a record. As protection. Now you know what we found. What we risked. And what might still be coming. If anything happens, you've seen it. You know the truth. It's not about a motorcycle. Not about watches or cash. It's about the story, the life behind the lock, the man who vanished, and what he left behind. Would we do it again? Absolutely. Because in this world, sometimes the craziest gambles lead to the wildest discoveries. And this $16,000 unit was the ride of a lifetime?